So in the evaluation process, we're thinking about impact. So we really want to understand how impactful the content is for parents and caregivers. We want to understand how engaging with the content might have shaped or shifted their parenting attitudes, their behaviors, their knowledge of early childhood development, and their confidence as parents or caregivers. We also want to understand if there's been a change in their relationship or their connection with their child, or their child's connection with the broader family, community, and culture as well. So we're evaluating this in a couple of different ways. We're using a mixed method study, using both a survey, which collects more quantitative data from parents and caregivers, and we're also collecting qualitative data. So we're conducting one-on-one interviews as well as more group-based workshops, again, to have discussions with parents and to really dive into how they've been using the content in their day-to-day life and how it's impacted them.
The evaluation process kicks in after the app has been officially launched. A few weeks after that, we will put out a survey. So in some countries, we're just doing the surveys, but in select countries, we're doing an in-depth evaluation. And in those places, we do a survey at 3 different time points, and at the same time we run interviews and workshops with caregivers. And that, when I say caregivers, I mean parents, I mean aunties, uncles, early childhood educators, grandparents, so a range of different people who are involved in looking after children. And then, as well as that, we try and identify sort of really enthusiastic participants, and we get them to make audio diaries for us over a period of 4 weeks, and that just gives them an opportunity to have a sort of an unstructured format for recording how, it's not just about how they're using the app, but what's important to them in terms of childrearing, what are their challenges in their day-to-day lives, so that we really get a picture of how the app is fitting within a broader context, not just in an interview you can have a bit more of a focused conversation about the role of the app, but we also want to get a bigger picture of what it means in the context of all these other things that are happening for them. And then the other part of the evaluation, we're sort of evaluating how the app is being implemented. So for that, we're talking to people from the funding organisation at Minderoo. We're talking to people who have been involved in the co-design, the local partners, the experts in each country who've been involved in the app development. So we get a real picture of how the partnerships have worked, a whole range of things that have influenced the way that the app has sort of come about in that country and what has affected its development, and other kinds of impacts that it might be having in terms of building partnerships. And those sorts of things can have ramifications well beyond something like just a caregiving relationship. And so we want to capture sort of the bigger picture of the impacts that way.
We're finding that cultural context is actually key in every way because, well, with the app, it's sought to be adapted to the cultural context of the places where it's being implemented. So in our interviews, we're trying to understand whether it's resonating with people and the way they've grown up or are experiencing change in how parenting or child caregiving is occurring in their society. So if it's not resonating with people, then they're not going to be using the app. It's not going to make sense to them. So we're really trying to understand whether that's kind of working out for them. And also it helps our research to be enriched as well by understanding context.
My key learning is definitely one size does not fit all. For example, in Indonesia, although the app was promoted heavily right across the country, we learned that the people living in the rural areas benefited more from the activities in the app, which was quite interesting. Whereas in Uzbekistan, it's more like the early childhood development space It's being used more by the early childhood educators in that kind of setting. So definitely yes. And then in terms of the dissemination of the app contents itself, the app is not the only place where we can disseminate it. There are other means that would be more appropriate depending on the target population. I think that's the key lessons that I've learned.
Actually has made their lives better, so I find that really, really rewarding that we are able to just go into a country, and even if it's just make an impact on one caregiver's life, like that to me is just, it just makes a world of difference.